Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Ramona. I'm so thrilled you have joined us today. We are exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose. And that purpose is having a servant's heart so you can make a difference in your work and in your life. Who doesn't want to make a difference? I know I do, and I try to do that every day. I also developed this show to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you to make an impact in your world. This show today is going to be talking about inclusion, disability, how we can bring them into our world and make an impact with them. But here's the cool thing. She's going to talk about how they make an impact with us as well. So it's an impact both ways, which is a very unique way of looking at it. And I love it. I want you to think about today, audience, while you're listening to this show, how you're going to serve yourself and you're going to serve others today and what impact you'll create today. And the key word is, let's do it today. Let's not wait 6 weeks or 3 weeks. Let's start making that impact and creating service today. And our episode today is sponsored by our incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners, entrepreneurs from very diverse industries, together to build a community of thought leaders who want to impact and change the world. For more information, reach out to me. You have all my contact info, or reach out to me through the podcast or the YouTube channel. I'll get you all that information. With that being said, we're blessed to have our guest on today. As I said, we can make an impact in the disability world, which I work with a number of people. I'm so excited to be part of this with my guest today. But I want you to listen and see the power of a servant's heart for disabled people, disabled children, disabled adults. And I got to tell a quick story, and I don't usually do this, but I will. I remember driving down the road, stopped at a stoplight. You know, my dad was in the hospital, a girlfriend breaking up, and I looked over, and there's a gentleman at the bus stop in a wheelchair. And I started crying, being very transparent with you, because I went and I looked into my rearview mirror and said, what are you complaining about? This guy has to take a bus. He'll probably never walk again. Well, one, I didn't do anything, but I wish I could have done something. But two, look at your life that way. Be blessed with what you have, because somebody may not have what you have. And I want to jump into that because this is what our show is all about. Linda, I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. I so appreciate it. Can't wait to share with your audience.
I'm so pumped up. Talk about, like we started with, inclusion and being a champion for disabled people. Talk about that.
Yeah, so my story started when my son was born with Down syndrome in 1989. I really struggled with coming to grips with the diagnosis, and through a lot of time and prayer and other people that came into my life, I have discovered this incredible life with my extraordinary child. And so one of the things that I did was being encouraged by family, and then getting the God nudge about 4 years ago, I wrote a book called Blessed with Extraordinary, and it's about support and resources for families of children with Down syndrome. And the best part about all of this is it has given me a platform to share, to help, to guide parents, to teach communities about, don't fear people with disabilities, include them and find these incredible benefits. People with Down syndrome and other disabilities have so much to share. And so my story that's where it starts. And so now I get the opportunity to talk at conferences, talk to Rotary clubs and local organizations, and be on podcasts to share this important message and really serve the disability community by being an advocate and a champion.
There's a symbol happening right now. I'm going to explain this. Behind your left shoulder is a butterfly. And audience, if you're listening to this on our podcast, which will be down the road, and you can't see it, she's got a picture of a beautiful blue butterfly. What I'm feeling and hearing from you, Linda, it's like the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Your autistic child was this caterpillar and mesomorphed into a beautiful butterfly that's giving back to the world. Am I hearing this right?
Oh, that is the perfect example.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks, I've gotten stories from his independent living location about how he brightens everybody's day, how they fight over who's going to take Kevin to lunch. And he also is volunteering at a local hospital, just doing different volunteer things. And the people in ICU are going to the nurses and saying, whoever that young man is, he is in a perfect spot. He makes us all feel so much better. He just has this infectious smile, and he eludes this sense of peace and calm and joy in spite of everything else.
He doesn't let the
Yeah.
autism slow him down. That's what it sounds like.
No, he doesn't have autism. He has Down syndrome.
Down, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
But still, he doesn't have, his disability doesn't stop him.
No, he lets nothing stop him. He's got a pacemaker. He has celiac disease. He's got a heart condition. He has hypothyroid. You would never know it. Okay, so we just went on a cruise, and this was his like big 35th birthday party or present. This guy did rock wall climbing. I had no idea he was even interested, but you should have seen him. He's on that wall and he's strategizing where the hand and the foot are going to go. I was beside myself proud of him. But it just goes to show, don't limit me. That's one of my favorite hashtags, is don't limit people with disabilities. They have these unique gifts and talents to share, and they will brighten your world like nothing else.
What's your son's name?
His name is Kevin.
Kevin, shout out to you on my podcast. God bless you, and keep doing that. Keep inspiring other people. And that's what I'm loving about his Down syndrome and what he has. He's still inspiring people, and people who are enabled, can do anything like me, like my wheelchair story. I'm inspired by him right now. I could do so much more. And I love that. Here's what I hear. People run into families like you that have autism and Down syndrome or missing legs, disabled. They don't know how to approach people. What's the proper way to approach people that have children like that?
First of all, speak from the heart. Don't focus on the disability. Focus on them as a family. So if you come up to someone, they have a brand new baby, the baby obviously has Down syndrome because those are common features. You might say something like, oh, your baby's so beautiful. What is their name? How is your family doing? If they live in the neighborhood, invite them over. I think there are two important things to remember. One is language matters. So first of all, most people in the disability community, including self-advocates, want people first or person first language. That is, person first, disability second. Because really a disability is not who they are. It's something that they have. So to say this is a Downs person is demeaning, because that's not who they are. You would say person with Down syndrome, child with Down syndrome, individual with Down syndrome. The second thing is the word special needs has been popular, and it became popular with the advent of special education. It is not acceptable as it was. It is being replaced by disability, which if you've listened so far, that's the terminology that I use because it is a disability. IDD is intellectual and developmental disability. And that's what my son has. And that's what many people with Down syndrome have and other disabilities. So when you're referring to someone, I would encourage you to not use the term special needs, but just use disability, because their needs aren't special. Their needs are human needs. They need to be connected and loved and challenged and have a job and be in an inclusive community. So they may need accommodations, but that's different than special needs. So it's this nuance of language, but it's becoming more and more important.
Yeah, and identity is a big thing here, what I'm hearing. And if I ran into you in person and we'd hug as we met on my show, I would just treat him as Kevin. Kevin, nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. Don't need to get all that information because it's not needed. He's probably pretty aware of it, but he's just a man. Sounds like he's a little bit older, right? I mean, is that the identity we want to portray? Is this is Kevin?
Yes, he's just Kevin. He's Kevin first, and he has Down syndrome second. But like we talked about before, it doesn't stop him, limit him. He has a very bad stutter. And we've done everything we can, but because of his intellectual disability, he's not able to learn strategies to not stutter. So I am often, when I'm with him, I often tell people, just give him a moment and he will eventually get it out. And people will be blessed by that, by his smile, by his emotion and his positivity. Yeah.
Yeah, here's what's really cool. Man, I'm loving this. He's got a stutter. We just wait, but he can rock climb. I can't do that, but he can do that. Yeah, me and you can't do that. So the judgment thing in the Bible, we talk about that, and it talks about that a lot, about judging. You know what? He's just way ahead of me on that. And I can speak without a stutter. So we just share that's a disability. I'm too old, probably too big, and all that crazy stuff. Make it normalcy is what I'm hearing too around this disabled children.
Right. They're not something to be feared or shunned. I have so many stories, but when he was little, I would have him either in the grocery cart, or in a stroller going through the malls. And people would particularly walk around us or go the other way so that they didn't have to interact. I encourage you, interact, volunteer. Do you want to learn more about people with disabilities? Volunteer, Special Olympics, church ministries. Maybe there's something else in your community. Get involved with people. Maybe there are employment or volunteer opportunities where you work, or maybe you know of some. Special Olympics is always looking for people to help buddies or coach or any of that kind of stuff. And your life will be so enriched. And you will learn that they're just people. They're people first, and mostly happy people. So,
Linda, I think you're in my head, because I was just going to ask you about community. I do want to ask about that. So delve into a little bit more how important community is for these children.
So it's critical, right?
Okay.
With the advent of IDEA, the Individuals with Education Disability Act, or that Education Act, individuals with Down syndrome and other disabilities, because they have education, one, lifespan is increased because we have dismantled institutions. They are learning, so they're able to work at all kinds of jobs. There are actors, actresses, poets, writers, graduates, members of Congress that have disabilities, and especially Down syndrome. They're people, they're capable of anything given the opportunity. In the workplace, there's increased productivity when you hire someone with a disability. You get more customer loyalty. They are going to bring fresh perspectives. And I mean this in a positive way. Just like you were talking about before, he might have a stutter as a disability, but I have, other disabilities, things that I just simply can't do. And it's important that we encourage the abilities and focus on the abilities and talents and give people opportunities to express those things inside the community. It makes a stronger, more vibrant community. There's more tolerance. There's less discrimination when that comes from the top of the community, you know, the people that are running the cities or counties. So I think all of that matters. And they are a huge part of the not only the workforce, but the buying community,
Yeah.
right?
Your passion is so infectious. And I remember meeting you for the first time. I felt the same. I'm feeling even more now. And what's interesting, you're an CEO or you're staffing or hiring staff, Down syndrome, to disabled or not, just put them in the right place. If Kevin has a stutter, you wouldn't probably put him at the counter where he's meeting people because it might be uncomfortable. So you put him in the back to do numbers or whatever that may be. Because I've talked to a few autistic people that work, they put them in the back and they do run numbers and they're absolutely incredible, way better than most people. So find a good place for them, just like me or you. Just find where they fit. Don't look at them as a disabled person.
Yeah. So one of his big jobs was he was one of the original employees at a new Whataburger here in our city a long time ago. He worked there for 11 years up until COVID hit, but he was one of the only original employees that was still there. The only employee with Down syndrome. So they didn't put him behind the counter, but he was delivering food and delivering condiments, and he would start conversations with people. He ended up having these 4 guys that came every Friday, 4 adult men that were retired, and they called it Whataburger Friday with Kevin. And he did not know their names, but he knew them by what they drank. So Diet Coke, Coke, Sprite, and Dr. Pepper. When Kevin had his first pacemaker put in and he had to take time off, those guys wrote cards and left cards for him at Whataburger. It was so touching.
Oh my God.
And they were there when he came back and they welcomed him back. I mean, he just has this infectious way of making people feel loved and important. It's so beautiful.
Can he share that with the world? Because we could sure use that. I wish he could. I know he can't. He's in his own little world, which I talk about is so cool. Man, this is so good. I want to jump into Linda Bonner's studios. You're doing these cards. What was the star of that? Why did you start this?
Okay, so I originally started making little miniature note cards, little 2x3-inch cards, hand making envelopes for an organization called Artomat. And Artomat is a refurbished vintage cigarette machine. These machines are all over the world. So as an artist, I contribute my art, I send it to them, and anyone that owns an Artomat machine can buy it. So that's how I first started. And I've got 4 or 5 different projects that I make with them, miniature art of all kinds. I absolutely love it. So then I showed the cards to someone and she said, could you make full-size cards? I'm like, sure, yeah, I can do that. And that was the start of Linda Bonner Studios, because once people saw that, they were asking, well, do you do birthday cards? Of course I do birthday cards. Could you do a custom card for my cousin who just had twins? Absolutely. And I've had more fun. This idea of starting with a piece of paper and an embellishment and different colors and textures and putting things together is so much joy for me. So that was the start of Linda Bonner Studios. And now I sell my miniature art through there as well. And I'm an educator, so I teach people to do art. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's cool. It's usually a passion and experience in your life that leads to a business, usually a good business, because of the passion, your vision behind that. What's the future of Linda Bonner Studios?
So the future is more education, and it is bringing this idea of handwritten notes to the senior population. I have a real heart for this. My mom is in senior living and she's, it's isolation and all these kinds of things. And just based on discussions with different people, I've learned that even if family is close by, they don't have that same constant interaction, which leads to loneliness and isolation. The communities can only do so much. So my idea is talk to these communities and bring classes to the seniors, but also build a bridge between the families and the resident so that my cards can be available for them. Maybe I'm handwriting and delivering it to them, but allowing also the residents to send cards to their family and keep that communication going. I think it's critical. It helps with your functioning, your well-being, just so many things, just keeping your brain active. So that's a new passion that I'm pursuing with Linda Bonner Studios.
I love it because I had a guest on a couple of weeks with Carrie who uses art for therapy for mental health. And she's blown up. It's because, and I didn't realize this because I'm not an artist, doesn't matter if you are or not, it's what you're doing with educating and having people doing artistry helps with the brain. And seniors, you got to do more for the brain because of autism and dementia and things that are happening to our seniors that I'm even dealing with family members. So I love that you're doing that because you're out there with a servant's heart. That's why you're on the show. It's so powerful. We're running out of time here, and I can't believe time flew by. I knew it would with you. What's a resources, somebody listening that has a disabled child, what resources come off the top of your head that you could share with them?
Well, first of all, I would really encourage them to buy my book. It's called
Okay.
Blessed with Extraordinary: Support and Resources for Families of Children with Down Syndrome. And the best place to find it is on my website, blessedwithextraordinary.com. I would also encourage them to look at national Down syndrome or disability organizations, like the National Down Syndrome Congress or Society. There's many of those that's specific to Down syndrome. The other one that I would encourage people that have a child or a loved one with a disability, Global Down Syndrome Foundation. They are the leaders in research on people young and old with Down syndrome and other disabilities, and specifically early onset dementia and Alzheimer's, which has become more prevalent. So I think if they are looking at those, getting connected to those organizations, that is probably the best place to start.
Oh, it's beautiful. You're such a blessing. I got to thank you so much for being on here.
Oh,
Thank you. I know I keep saying thank you, but it's just, I love people that are out there giving, helping, educating, because we all need to do more of that, especially with disabled, to support families and support them, the child themselves as well. So let's end with a fun question. I want to get to know you a little bit deeper. So you've got a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4. You, of course, sitting in one of the chairs. And the other 3 chairs, who would you invite, dead or alive? Why would they be invited? And of course, what food would you order?
Ooh. One would be Jesus.
Amen.
Um, One would be my grandmother. She had a huge impact on me, huge impact on me. The other would be my mother-in-law. She passed away quite a few years ago, but the way she and her husband, Kevin's grandfather, embraced Kevin was beyond anything I can even explain. She was such a special part of our lives when he was young. And food, I would let everybody order whatever they wanted, and I would go all out and order a steak and a baked potato and some kind of decadent dessert. And I'm not even supposed to eat this stuff, but maybe like pecan pie with ice cream.
Ooh, it's a one-time shot. We could do that. Unfortunately, you won't have to roll another chair in because I'm gonna have to eat with you. That sounds way too good. And I imagine Jesus will have a tough time talking between 2 ladies like that because they're going to have their own chatting going on. Jesus will be able to fit in his conversation as well. That's a great table. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know people listening are going to want to reach out to you. How can they support you and connect with you?
So they can go to lindabonnerstudios.com, which is my website for the cards and art. And they can also connect with me on Instagram and Facebook. So it's just at Linda Bonner Studios. And for my disability champion, it's at More Extraordinary Days for both Instagram and Facebook. I would love to connect with people. I'd love to hear from them. I'd love to hear their stories. I'd love to share resources. however I can be a support and a resource to other people, I would love to do that.
True servant's heart right there. God bless. Thank you again. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And here's why. It's a unique way. There's a lot here that Linda went over that you could really help, but maybe you didn't pick it all up. So when you subscribe, you have access to her easily. I could send you the link, and there's ways, and that could be done too. But also too, you get all my incredible guests like her that just will blow you away. Again, inspiration, motivation, and education. Here's the other reason. Share with a family or friend that might have an autistic child or Down syndrome child or disabled child. And they can listen and get access to Linda, listen to her passion. I mean, I got chills right now listening to her because it's such an important thing. With the world the way it is, we need to take care of our disabled people, and they should be part of our family, even our extended family. And as always, me and Linda want to thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode, Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.